Hey everybody, it's Dynamite Show. Paul Fontaine, Jeff Hawkins here on the Fight Game Media YouTube channel, live on Wednesday as we're recording. And if you're listening on the Fight Game Media free audio feed, I want to thank you as well for that. Coming your way Thursday morning, second day in a row with me. I was on last night with Keela Cash talking NXT Roadblock and other WWE stuff. So that was
A
fun.
fun show if you haven't watched it.
Yeah, one of the better TV shows of the year, I will say.
Yes.
From any company. Before we get going, I just want to update people because of the way I left last week, and I want to apologize for that.
Yes,
Leaving
we'd
you in
like
the
to
lurch.
apologize for leaving you with Jeff doing solo audio. It
No,
was
I'm
god awful.
apologizing for leaving you. Yeah, it was an emergency. We ended up calling paramedics because our daughter was having a hard time breathing and her heart rate was super elevated. We used the watch app thingamajig to check her oxygen levels, and they were at 92, which is apparently bad. So we called 911. By the time they got here, she had calmed down a little bit, but her heart rate was still really high. And they said we didn't have to send her to the hospital, but they recommended that we do. And if we said no, then they were going to have to bring their supervisor down. And then, they'd try to convince us. And we just kind of said, no, okay, let's take her to the hospital. So brought her to the hospital. She was there for a couple days and came home. It was Wednesday. So she came home Friday and she's been home since, and every day getting a little bit better. It turned out it was a really, really bad flu. It's been going around. A lot of people have had it. My wife and I were both sick too, but not nearly as bad as her. My wife's still sick. I'm pretty much over it. I may lose my breath once or twice if I laugh too much on this show like last week, but she's sleeping through the night now, so I shouldn't get interrupted.
That's okay. I'll do my best not to be funny.
Yeah, no. I shouldn't get. Yeah, you're good at that. So far, like the last 4 nights, I haven't had to wake up and go in and check on her, so we should be good.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was we had Revolution on Sunday, which I did manage to watch, and I think my overriding opinion, I've never had a show where it was that good that I had so many problems with. If that makes sense. Like it was such a good show, so many good matches, like really, really good matches with a horrible main event and just some really bizarre choices that they made throughout the show, I thought.
I agree. I liked it. My mistake was watching the pre-show as well. I shouldn't have. 4 matches in the pre-show will just wear me out for the rest of the card. I am sort of aligned with John LaRocca here, as I often am, because I said almost I referenced the exact same pay-per-view he did in his review, and that's Starrcade 85, The Gathering.
Okay.
Which, if you look, it has a couple of legendary matches on it. It has the Tully Magnum I Quit match, etc. But if you watch it as a show, as a pay-per-view, the blood is flowing from like the first match. And to me, my first thought was I liked that. But there was a lot of excessiveness in a lot of the matches. There were a lot of matches where they were telling 3 stories when one would do.
And you're talking Sunday now?
I'm talking Sunday now, yes.
Okay, all right.
And I think part of this is in the agenting of the matches. And also, a pay-per-view is much like a match is supposed to tell a story. A pay-per-view is also kind of supposed to tell a story with a narrative flow in some ways. And yes, the ending kind of, it wasn't very good. But even within there, it's like you have the Tony Storm Hollywood ending followed by that cage match. And oddly enough, I called that Spanish Fly off the top of the cage on Shake Them Ropes. Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah. I just went, they'll probably both do something dumb, like a Spanish Fly off the top of the cage. Me being snarky. There it is. But it's like, okay, and a lot of people are doing the head-to-head comparison with the cage match on Raw. I'm not necessarily. But if I had my druthers, my preference is the cage match on Raw because it adheres to the narrative consistency of what the cage match is, as opposed to Mark Davis coming down with a bag of plunder without anybody else in the Callis family with him to help beat up Will, because that would be the logical thing. And then to have just a bunch of plunder within the cage.
Can I ask, why couldn't Kyle Fletcher just bring that bag of plunder with him?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
No, I agree with that. It's one of those things where it's like, we have the stipulation and now we're going to, and it's one of my pet peeves, at least personally. We have the stipulation. Now we have to find a way around the stipulation somehow. And it's
like why, and then it just brings up more questions. Like, why didn't just the whole Callis family come out?
Yes.
5-on-1 attack on Ospreay.
Yeah. And see, and that's for people like me. And then, you know, a bunch of nerds go by, why don't you just enjoy it and turn off your brain? That's like, cause I can't. Well,
and the thing is, I would have enjoyed it more if they wouldn't have overly complicated it.
Yes, and that's pretty much my. I mean, there are about 3 or 4 matches I could say they overcomplicated it. There were probably a few too many kickouts out of finishers in some of these matches where it's like, all right, we don't need this much drama. Let's wrap it up, especially that main event. That main event was so poorly conceived in many ways for that audience. An audience that had been watching 6 hours of wrestling already.
Not just that, but coming right after the cage match.
Yes.
I mean, one of the first spots of the match, after we saw that incredibly stupid Spanish fly from the top of the cage, you know, which was spectacular, and the fans, you know, went nuts as you would expect. Then not 10 minutes later, you had Edge, who broke his leg doing a similar kind of move, jumping off the top turnbuckle onto the floor, which is, if the Spanish fly off the cage was a 10 in terms of, you know, like spectacular and wowing the crowd and everything, this was like a 2.5, and the crowd reacted like it was a 2.5. Like, they didn't react, and they were having a punch kick brawl match, you know, like a WWE 2000 main event kind of match, after the fans just watched an indie spectacular cage match, you know, basically like an NXT late 2010s War Games match. Like, that's what this was, but just with 2 guys instead of 10.
And on the cage match thing, like the Spanish fly spot, I liked. There was a little bit of theatricality missing in that Kyle Fletcher should have just said, I'm done with this match. I hate this match. I'm tired of being here. I'm leaving the cage. The hell with you. And then gone to climb out of the cage and then begged off when Will got up there.
Yes.
This was more, all right, next spot is we're jumping off the cage. Okay.
When they started the match with the 2 guys on either side of the cage standing there staring at each other,
that was great.
Did you not think they were going to both jump at each other? Like, I thought that for a split second.
Yes. I thought there was going to be something insane to start, and then it's like, okay, how do we top this?
Yeah, and no, they saved the most insane spot for the end, so that was good.
Yeah, I will say that was good, but it was like there were little things that were missing.
If you took the Mark Davis stuff out of it, this would be right up there with the match of the year for me. And because of the Mark Davis stuff, I didn't even think it was the best match.
Yeah, we didn't need to revisit that story at all.
No, nobody cares about the stupid story. Like, and they did it again tonight. Nobody cares. The fans don't care. The announcers don't even understand the story.
There's no emotional leverage there now.
No.
Mark Davis got beat in a match by him, and now he's coming in to help Fletcher in a match when it should be the entire Callis family type thing.
Supposedly conflicted because
and he's allegedly conflicted, even though he can't express that. In
Don Callis claims that he complains every time he's asked to do something. We're not seeing that story play out in front of our eyes. They're trying to tell that story, but that's not the story we're actually witnessing.
Yes, they love telling us the stories on comment. This has been because I've been watching that first Double or Nothing. There are stories they tell us on commentary that they're not telling us on the screen, which is amazing in some ways that they still do this. But and the other thing, I mean, I really did like the show a lot. But there's this weird push. You need to say it's better than Elimination Chamber. I'm like, no, I don't. They exist in 2 different worlds completely.
Yeah.
I don't have to like one or the other more.
For their specific audiences, they were both incredible shows.
Very good. Yes.
No, they're exactly what their audience wants. And I'm their audience, and I like both shows. another one I had an issue with, Ricochet and Swerve. You talk
Yes.
about overly complicating things.
Yes.
That was a great match, but then they had a spot in the middle of the match where like Nana
leaves.
He gets mad at Swerve and he leaves, and then at the end of the match he just comes back and everything's fine.
Yes. Oh, it was all a trick.
And then the funny thing is someone in our Discord asked about it, and at 3 different points we got 3 different explanations that all made sense. But the problem is, no, they didn't tell us that story. So I'm sure it was probably one of those 3 or some variation, some combination of the 3. And then what about, didn't he promise that he'd done some alterations on the robe?
Yes, didn't he add a logo or something on the back to it?
Did he?
I thought he had. I thought they said
maybe.
that.
I didn't see it, but okay, so that was the alteration.
But hey, I didn't like the robe anyways this week.
Well, I mean, and now, the next time we see Nana, is he gonna be wearing the robe? Probably not.
Yeah,
Swerve wasn't wearing the robe after the match. So
yes, we have the blood feud, we have the love of Nana, and we have the robe. That's 3 stories. Let's just tell one.
Yeah. So and then, like, I thought the best match on the show and one of the best matches of the year was Takeshita and Omega. I just loved that match. I love the selling. I love the story that they told. I love the physicality. Everything about it. And Callis on commentary added to it. In the crowd atmosphere, they really believed that Kenny was hurt and selling that he was hurt. And I really, really like that match. I saw people that thought Swerve Ricochet was the best match. I saw people that thought the cage match was the best match. So there's a little, and the women's match, one of the highest rated matches of the year on Cage Match. I thought it was maybe the 4th best match on the show. But it was great. Like, it was a great show. So it was, it was a show full of a bunch of great matches. I should say it that way.
I actually really enjoyed the opener.
I did too. I thought it was better than the women's match. I mean, I rated them the same, but if I had to pick one of the 2, I would pick that. And it's no slag on the women's match. It was great. It was one of the better women's matches of the year.
And to be honest, I did enjoy the last match of the pre-show. I enjoyed that trios match.
Yeah,
it was ridiculously fun. It was ridiculously stupid, and I loved it.
It was a nice 3.5 star match,
See, but it should have also been a palate cleanser somewhere on this main card.
Well, was that the tag match? I guess maybe.
If that's what you would call that, yes.
Mercedes.
I was disappointed in that tag match. Let's put it that way.
The Okada match, maybe, like.
Yeah, the Okada match had a little bit to be desired, I thought.
Yeah, and the Mercedes match, it was good. It just didn't need to be there. Like, I mean, I guess it did need to be there technically because they had to have 2 women's matches, but
Mercedes though might be the toughest wrestler on the planet to me. she enjoys getting hit, but she always gets hit hard in like the wrong places all the time. Like that bruise on her neck and chin is something, man.
Well, she's gonna have fun trying to get a good match out of Billy Starks next week. I watch a lot of Billy Starks. She's not as good as she was 3 years ago. I'll just say that.
But let me transition because we both like the pay-per-view. But my point about Elimination Chamber is because I have stepped in it once again with my brethren in the wrestling commentariat. So this time the big boys from Voices of Wrestling were calling me out. I'm just like, guys, it's not a negative necessarily. Ospreay in an interview said that if he were in WWE, that what's the quote?
The WWE fans would be wanking into their handkerchiefs over his matches.
And I just said I have my doubts about that because to me, Will Ospreay is where he belongs. Yes. I think he would need some help in the WWE. And I explained why. I said if you gave him the same build he had in AEW, 3 weeks of bangers where he's doing 70-30 matches, giving the 70 to the other guy, he'd right now be in a feud with Ludwig Kaiser or Carmelo Hayes. He'd be on Penta. That level right now. Yeah, he would be Penta. And he is not the WWE type in terms of what the fans instantly gravitate to. Jacked up smack talkers or ass kickers. And that's what set them. What do you mean Will Ospreay isn't an ass kicker? Did you see that cage match, etc.? I'm like, he is a high level for lack of a better term, flippy guy in some ways, but he does not give the aura of ass kicking. And that is, and that's an American thing. And I get we're ugly Americans who like our lumbering steroid jacked people in wrestling or whatever. I get that, but he would need something like maybe the bruv catchphrase could get over for him. I mean, Enzo Amore was the most over guy at one point in WWE, selling merchandise up the yazoo. I just, being a good wrestler is great, but it's one of those things where I push back against some of these narratives. Like when Dave Meltzer once said that Ricochet was can't miss when he was signed by WWE, I said he can't talk. And that's going to hurt him. There are things in American television wrestling, not wrestling on television, but professional wrestling on professional wrestling shows that help you in WWE.
You know what the ironic thing about Ricochet is? Number
He's
one,
doing better work now on promos than I've ever seen.
Yes. I was going to get to that, but he had a good run in WWE. He had some really good matches.
Yes.
He had some high-profile matches, and when he was in a high-profile match, it was usually the best match in the show. So he got to showcase his abilities. They hid his perceived lack of abilities by not giving him the promo time. Now, when he goes to AEW, he can do the bangers, but that's not what got him over.
No.
What got him over was the promos that WWE didn't even know he had in him.
Right.
Yeah. And I don't even know if he could play that character in WWE. Now, when you take it back to Ospreay, I'm going to kind of counter what you were saying a little bit.
That's fine. I'm here for
Number
debate.
one, if he went to NXT and did the matches,
he'd be a god in NXT,
and they would be wanking into their handkerchiefs on camera in the PC.
And everybody else would be going, why isn't he on the main roster?
Right.
Oh, he has to learn how to work the hard game. And I hate
or whatever.
Because what that the quote unquote time in NXT helps you to learn the American WWE style of presentation, not just wrestling, but presentation. And that's what people who think that, oh, he was a big star in New Japan, so he gets wrestling and knows where the hard cam is. That's not the point. The point is to learn how they make their product.
And the point is also for the fans to get to know you.
Yes, it's conditioning.
Look at Stephanie Vicaire. Like, she's to the point now where they see her signature spots coming. They're right into it. You look at Ricky Saints. Yeah, he could debut on the main roster and he might do fine. He's going to do better because he started NXT.
Yes.
And I will die on that hill. And people will argue with me. I said that before he got there. And, oh, no, you're nuts. He's money, blah, blah. You should go in. He should be Cody's best friend, blah, blah. No.
He's small. He needs the fan base.
Yes, and by the time he gets to the main roster, he's going to have momentum behind him. Now, when you go to Will Ospreay, if Will Ospreay was allowed to do the kind of matches in WWE that he does in AEW, he would get over. The fans would love it. Blah, blah. He wouldn't be at the Cody level, but he'd be maybe at the Seth Rollins level. He would be his maximum ceiling.
I think he'd be if he had debuted. Right now, we'd be getting ready for that. You remember when AJ Styles came in and he had the big pop at Royal Rumble because everybody knew him because he was Orlando, which was the big thing, and also he was possibly on the hottest streak of his career doing both Indies and New Japan. Yeah. But 4 months later or so, he does WrestleMania and he loses to Chris Jericho. Which, by the way, was the call of my lifetime when everybody else called me stupid. And I said, there's no way Vince is going to put him over Chris Jericho because he's not the guy he built. He's going to have to break him down. They still believe in breaking people down if you weren't there at the company from the get-go. They still that's Hunter and HBK still both believe that in their hearts that you may have been a big deal somewhere else, but you need to humble yourself and get with the program. And then if you do that and you don't complain, we'll build you back up again, which is exactly what they did with AJ Styles.
And they did that in one night at the Raw after Mania that we were both at.
Yes.
I think they did like a mini kind of tournament. And at the end of the show, he was the number one contender. Fans were singing his song. He was a huge star the day after losing to Chris Jericho.
And then he goes into the beat John Cena stuff later, but yeah.
And so, that's probably where Ospreay would be right now. He would be maybe getting ready to do like an IC title match with Braun Breaker or something.
Yes,
You know,
and everybody would be going, why isn't he main eventing? Because he's the best wrestler in the world. It's a ridiculous standard that people have, but it's
maybe doing a dream match with Gunther. You know, and that would be you know, that would steal the show at Mania.
He signed with the right company. It's
absolutely.
And yeah, you have to deal with the theater kid aspect of AEW where everybody gets to do everything and get their stuff in. See Brian Cage tonight. But it's also, you know, it's a blessing and a curse. It's one of those things. But yeah, it's also okay, AEW is a smaller stage, but there's nothing wrong with that necessarily. I mean, he's where his gifts best fit right now.
He's making a ton of money.
Yes, and if he gets better at some of these other things that the other company seems to love a lot, especially on the promo end, a little bit better on that, then he could go to WWE and be fine.
Like if Cody had stayed in AEW, would he be as big as he is now? Of course not.
No.
You know, like it's right fit, right time, right place.
Yes, and I wasn't being negative about Will Ospreay. I'm just saying that's not the kind of guy that WWE fans look at and go, yes, that's the guy I want in my main event. That's the kind of guy that internet message board people go look and go, he's the best wrestler in the world.
I will say, I think maybe Okada would have been better off going to WWE.
Yes.
But yeah, because I think they would have treated him.
Or he's, you know, he's big.
And they would have treated him like a legend.
Style. Yes.
Yeah. And he'd be world champ by now, I bet. Like the Gunther belt, not the Cody belt, but the Gunther belt.
I think Daniel Garcia shouldn't have re-signed with AEW.
Well, if he would have signed with WWE, he'd be in NXT and he'd be there for a while.
That's fine. He's young, but he'd be getting something that he didn't get in AEW. Because in AEW, he's going to get good matches. In WWE,
he's the champion now. He's the TNT champion. And yet I listened to it was so funny because I was listening to the Fight Game podcast with LaRocca and Gigi. And LaRocca asked, "Oh, what's Garcia doing? I haven't even seen him in months." It's like, this is what people don't understand. This is the average fan that only watches Dynamite and doesn't even watch Dynamite every week. Like, they have not seen Daniel
You didn't
Garcia.
see him on Collision? He was
on
there. It's all right.
Yeah. Even Jeremy, New Japan expert, agrees with us that Okada should have gone to WWE. So there we go.
Yeah.
That's a feather in our cap, because if Jeremy agrees with us, then we're on to something, because he knows his New Japan better than anyone. Speaking of Strong Style, every Thursday, I think at I want to say 6:30 Eastern. No, 5:30
plug
Eastern.
rider, Jeremy.
5:30 Eastern on this very channel, I think, is when they do it.
Yes.
I usually don't watch because I don't like watching podcasts on YouTube, number one. And number two, because I'm often behind on New Japan and they'll spoil it because they're on top of everything. So more the latter than the former.
You need to add that part. All you need to do is plug their show, Paul.
Well, whatever. I
don't watch it live.
Show. No, I know people that love that show. I mean, they swear by it, and people that won't even listen to our show, but they love their show. So
they won't listen to our show because of me, and I apologize. But
it's because of me. It's because of me. You're the star, according to Curryhead. Okay, so other than that, I think we hit on everything from Revolution.
Yeah, we're good. Let's go to the show.
I'm behind on the Observer. Any word on how that show did?
What do you mean? Buy rate wise? I didn't listen to that part. No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so tonight
that's going to be hard because of all the Amazon Prime buys and stuff like that. You know, those millions of buys that they got on Prime.
Yeah. You know what? I looked at that because I was curious. Like, maybe
I have no problem with the deal. I like the deal. Don't get me wrong.
Maybe I could save a little money, and so I looked. Dave said buys were up, so that's good.
Okay.
So I looked to see how much it would be. It was actually $8 more on Prime than it would have been on any other venue. So, needless to say, I did not order on Prime. $57.99 it would have cost me to order it on Prime. So, yeah, I got it on Triller with the VPN and paid $20.
I once again did not go live because I was afraid I'd break my diet.
Okay, there you go. So, you know what? I did not check to see how the show did tonight, but that won't take me very long. Like, they were in Fresno. I want to say maybe it was their debut, but what do we got? Hey, you know what? They did a decent crowd. 3,481. honestly, like I did not think that it was that big. We're looking at it. So the last time they were there was 2 years ago, and they did 5,100 for Dynamite. So they're down a little bit. It was a 13,000 seat building, so that's probably why it seemed like less people than there actually were.
I want to reach out to Mookie or somebody out there on these West Coast swings, because I don't think a lot of them fly back. Does Tony put up for hotels in between shows all week?
I don't know.
Okay.
Will said he was going to be home on Friday, so.
But Will's West Coast guy.
Oh, I thought he was in London.
Oh, Will Ospreay. I thought you meant Will Hobbs.
Oh, no. Yeah, Will Ospreay. Sorry. I got to be, yeah.
Well, some people fly out of there, but it's one of those things where it's like, okay, so we're just flying back and forth in between the week.
You want to rent them a couple rooms?
Well, that's what I was thinking. I mean, if you don't want to do that, travel's hard on people.
Yeah.
When you get, especially if you're getting banged up. I mean,
oh yeah. But no, I mean the crowd was okay. I will say though, okay, if you're one of those 3,400 people that bought tickets for this show, if it was me, I'd have been a little upset that as of I want to say as of this morning, they had no matches announced. They had, when was that tournament announced? Was it last night? The
tournament was announced late last night, but as of last night, they had 0 matches announced.
Yeah, they had 0 matches. They had MJF will be there and Kenny Omega will be there. And we got a lot of we'll hear from fill in the blank tonight, like a lot. But if I was like a fan who bought tickets, like you had no idea what you were buying tickets for.
Exactly, and I won't do that anymore.
And the main event. Did you catch when they did a backstage segment with I can't remember who it was, and when we get to it, I'll say it, but there was a segment. It was right before the main event, and it was Renee doing a backstage interview, and then when the interview was over, there was like clearly they had like 10-15 seconds to kill, and she was kind of looking at the camera and she says, "Okay, we'll be right back for our main event, which is Orange Cassidy versus Hechicero." And there was a groan from the crowd. And if you didn't hear it, go back and listen for it, because it was like, that's our main event. And I mean, if I was there, I'd have been, that's our main event. Orange Cassidy and Hechicero. You had MJF, Will Ospreay, Hangman Page, Mercedes Moné. All these big stars were, I'm assuming there, maybe they were pre-recorded. I don't know. And that was your main event. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd be a little disappointed. Although Orange Cassidy is a big deal, and Hechicero is a big deal to me. So
okay, well, these fans didn't seem to really know who he was.
No, because he hasn't been on in like a few months.
No, and when he is, it's usually Collision or Rampage.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's a lot of that tonight, actually. So we opened the show with a Kenny Omega promo. I think they did a short recap of some of the stuff that happened. I think maybe it was just
no. The recap of Revolution was after the 6-man, I believe.
Yeah, they had a full recap, but I think they did something during his intro. They just showed highlights of the match.
Am I being too snarky if I say thanks, Kenny, for getting dressed up for the event?
Yeah, I mean he was wearing.
I was thinking, look, he's half a step away from going to Jimmy Buffett concert.
Yeah,
or wearing shower shoes out of the thing.
This is like the kind of thing if you're staying at the Flamingo when you're in Vegas and you just got out of bed and you want to go down and play some blackjack before you're going to go go take a power walk.
This is Excalibur level. Yeah. Of caring about how you look. Yeah.
But you know what? The fans didn't care.
No, they did. But to me, I mean, and I'm like, am I the jerk for thinking, hey, put some effort into this presentation, Kenny?
Yeah. Well, he didn't. But he had a very good promo. It was a nice babyface promo. He said he's happy to be back, and with the support of the doctors, the fans, and his good friend Will Ospreay, he didn't think he'd be back at all. And now he's back with a title, a singles title. And then he wanted to thank someone that was going to be controversial, and that's Konosuke Takeshita, because he pushed him harder than he could have pushed himself. Says, if it wasn't for you forcing me, dragging me to that place, I wouldn't have this belt. I wouldn't even have this microphone to speak to you people. Takeshita, you made this belt a truly international champion. I'm quoting him. It should have been a championship. When our boss had an idea to come up with the Dynasty Eliminator Tournament, I think that's what he called it, I thought, Tony, that's a great idea, because I want whomever has this belt to call themselves the best on the planet. So I'm going to pay close attention to whoever wins this tournament, because I want to face the best. And we're kicking off this tournament with a bang. And speaking of a bang, and then he does his catchphrase. So goodbye, good night. He's done. He's out. And that's it for Ken.
I've done my 5. I'm out of here.
I got to play.
Gotta get back to my video game that's on pause right now because I'm 13-year-olds angry at me.
I'll see you at Dynasty in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
That's the next time we're gonna see him. No, I thought it was a good promo. Nice, passionate with the fans or whatever.
AEW is calling him a Grand Slam champion.
Are they?
Yes.
So the international title, the trios title, the tag belts, and the world belt.
I guess we no longer consider the TNT title a prestige, which was the first titles they made.
Well, no, it's just 4 titles. I mean, so I think maybe at some point you can be a 6-pack champion if you win like 6 belts. Right?
Would the Grand Slam be World, TNT, Tag, and Trios?
I would think so. Yeah.
Or unless we're gonna call it like Continental Classic.
Well, I would say in some ways the Continental is maybe more valuable than the International, but
the Western States Heritage title part of the.
No, I mean, because the Continental, you got the special rules. There's no interference. All that. You got the tournament. You have to put it up every year.
Okay.
So yeah, TNT is definitely Transferring Heat puts it.
I don't think we need to. We don't need to try that hard for Grand Slam champions and plugging people like that. I just one of those things. Where it's like we have so many belts in this company that
it's kind of weird when you go from a world champion down to a secondary belt.
It is, but I mean, like, it's also kind of cool at times. Like when Dusty went down to win like the World TV title,
or Cena with the US title and his open challenge and all that.
You can do something with it. Now, will they? I don't know, but you can.
Well, I mean, I think the idea is that he's the champion, but the real prize is not the belt. The prize is
5-star match with Kenny because Dave's gonna love it. Yeah,
the match with Kenny on pay-per-view. That's the prize. No, I'm not even joking. Like, and that's
I'm not either. I just find it funny. I do.
Yeah. So they had this tournament, and star-studded field, with Ricochet and a bunch of other people, and including one we didn't know. And including one that's never won a match in AEW.
Yes, Mark Davis somehow made his way into this tournament. Now, there better be an explanation that Don Callis paid somebody for this.
And then if it was, why didn't he just put Takeshita in it? But I guess they're not ready.
Well, because Mark Davis. Well, see, then you can play into the whole Callis is abusing Davis, and you need to prove your worth. And if you don't win this tournament, you're out of the family or something like that. I guess.
Yeah.
They won't put that much thought into it, but I can dream.
So Kenny's leaving, and as he's leaving, and thank goodness I didn't fast forward when I heard somebody else's entrance music, because they had a nice little stare down with Shibata, who came out with the Ops. And as they were coming out, I had no idea that they were even going to be on the show. I literally checked 2 hours before it started, and this had not been announced. So not that it really matters. But Shibata's in the tournament. He's facing Ricochet on Collision. And so they come out to face Vinny Pacifico, Eli Theseus, and Gabriel Eros. I actually rewound and paused so I could get these names right, and it took me longer to write the names down than the match went.
Happy for Vinny Pacifico.
Okay,
we've chatted a few times.
Okay. Well, this match went about as well.
Friend of Fightful, so it's one of those.
All right. They pushed the idea of them as trios champs. They mentioned that the Death Riders had the belts, and they also mentioned here that Shibata and Ricochet are facing off in the tournament, and as should have happened, Shibata won with a PK over one of the jobbers. So the idea is, the tournament basically is 4 matches. The winners meet in a 4-way next week. The winner of that 4-way meets Kenny at Dynasty. So
I'd just rather have a tournament. Just have a straight tournament, but 4-ways are fine.
Because they don't want to beat 7 people.
I know they don't, and that's a problem. They don't, and especially somebody that just debuted. But okay, so the Death Riders have the trios titles.
Yep.
Okay, I was about to ask that.
Yeah, but Claudio and Pac are
long forgotten.
Yeah, well, because they've only defended them like twice, and I think they won them at All In. So,
Again, I've never been a worker. Hook needs to go somewhere, man. He is not ready for prime time. If this were a company that had 5, like the old territories where you had like 7 shows in 5 days or 9 shows in 7 days, he'd be fine. But he is still at his level he was when he debuted 3 or 4 years ago, man. And
if
I'm
not
just
lower.
like, yeah, I watched this and I went, no wonder they're putting him in 6-man, because you can't put him in a solo match, really. It's send him on an excursion, send him somewhere where he'll get some ring time day after day after day, because just training isn't doing it, man.
Curry suggested what you were saying but didn't want to say. WWE NXT.
No, I wouldn't even send him there. I'd send him to Japan. I'd send him to DDT. I'd send him. Yeah.
Japan would be during those every like 5 shows a week, tours. That's what he needs. Yeah.
You need reps. It's like any other art form or skill. It's like, I mean, even in comedy, you get as much stage time as you can to
or put him on the indies on the weekends, but
doing it in a gym isn't going to do that, because you need to know how to react to the crowd and how they react to you.
Exactly. Yep, exactly. So we go from this to a Ricochet promo. He's wearing his suit and his backward hat.
Yes. I love this look. I do.
It's great. Despite me getting screwed at Revolution, my quest for championship gold isn't over. I didn't want that ugly ass robe anyways. Kenny's belt looks pretty. It would look even better around my waist. And that's why I entered the International Championship Eliminator Tournament. And he said, so Shibata, I'm going to give you the option of forfeiting. But if you show up, you might not have your translator app to tell people that you got beat by the next guy to hold gold here in AEW. Aha! Beautiful.
I love heel bravado when you say you can just quit before the match. That always pops me every time. So I liked this. He's found himself. It's amazing to me.
Someone's wandering around in my basement here, and I don't know who it is. It's driving me nuts. John says, Eric and cocky light-skinned African-American that's going to get his ass whooped, and I can say that, folks. Okay. I don't quite get that, but all right. This is where we got the highlight package for Revolution. It was pretty good. It showed most of what happened. And then we go backstage Sunday after the pay-per-view to Swerve.
Mm-hmm.
And they ask him, have you decided when you want to challenge for the title? And he says, yep, Dynasty. Last year at Dynasty, I made history by becoming the first Black AEW World Champion. And at Dynasty on April 7th, I'm going to do it again. And he's interrupted by Cope. And Cope says he didn't lose tonight. And he said, so there's a chance you're going to be facing me next week or at Dynasty. And if I win the title, then you'll definitely be looking at me. And they bump fists. And I think they may have put up a graphic here that showed the match is actually going to be next week. Or it might have been, no, you know what? It was during Moxley's promo, which immediately followed, which is weird. I guess they're doing a rematch on
well,
TV.
Before we get to that.
Yeah.
I did not like putting Cope in Swerve's promo. I understand we're trying to get multiple stories and intrigue and all that other stuff. But I kind of just want the button on Swerve being the number one contender.
Yeah.
And what he's going to do, and I'm going to be at Dynamite, and I'm fighting whoever has that title, etc., etc. I'm a proponent, and I've said this many times, of I am tired of the interrupting a promo trope, because nobody gets over. Finish your promo so that you can actually have some character development instead of just, okay, every time I come out for a promo, someone's going to interrupt me, and that's the next person I'm going to have a match with. I wanted Swerve to finish this promo. I was liking it, and then Edge came in, and I'm just like, oh, geez, okay, fine. We're gonna go with the drama of, will Cope be the world champion at All In? I doubt it.
Is Did you get the sense watching this that this show was being written as it was airing?
A little.
Okay.
And yeah, we're going right back to a street fight of a rematch. I liked
Yeah.
how I kind of liked how Moxley got out of trying to make logical sense of it. I'm
Yeah.
gonna be honest with you.
So that's the promo that came next. And it was kind of bad audio, as happens from time to time. But this
As
is really
happens with Mox because he can't stop moving and fidgeting.
Yes, yeah. So he says Copeland was given some kind of gift at Revolution. What was it they used to call you? The world's greatest opportunist? I appreciate the irony, but I scored the game-winning shot at the buzzer in front of 11,000 people like I always do. I should have got that guy out of there before Christian even had a chance to tie his boots, but I underestimated Adam Copeland. I heard him. He didn't care. He was sucking wind. He had glassy eyes. Couldn't get his legs underneath him, but he just kept coming. And whatever Adam Copeland is made of, it's rare. And you want to complain about the rules? Well, take your rules. Take DQs, countouts, whatever you want. Call it a street fight. Whatever you think looks cool on a poster, I'll take your excuses. And then, yeah, that's when they put up the graphic. Street fight next week in Omaha for the AEW World title. And he says, I underestimated his toughness, his grit to climb to the top of the mountain no matter what avalanches land before him. But he says there's many differences between amateurs and professionals. And the key one is that I never make the same mistake twice. So
I liked the promo, but about 2/3 of the way through, he starts clapping his hands or doing something with his hands, and the mic's picking it up, and it's driving me nuts. I'm just like, no, John, you can't be doing that right now. I know you might be a little bit nervous or have some energy there, but you can't do that.
I'm not exactly sure why. I guess it's because of Christian that he deserves a rematch, but I don't know.
Well, I like the way Christian got out of his thing too. I thought that was kind of clever.
That just came out of nowhere.
I know. It's like I pulled this straight out of my ass, and we'll get.
And I feel like that's all going to be a big swerve too, like we've seen with all these other, like it's like an ongoing. There's like 4 or 5 different storylines going on where like mentors are not getting along with their mentees.
Yes, and well, we'll talk about when we get to the Christian. Then let me hold.
Well, and Billy and Mark Davis and and Wheeler Yuta.
Yeah.
So next we got, speaking of matches that I didn't know were happening, and I didn't even as they were coming to the ring, I had no idea what was going on, and it was Dralistico and Brian Cage against Powerhouse Hobbs and
Hologram
in what they called a double payback match.
Yes, which they explained.
And this was explained to me. It's because basically each guy is feuding with the other guy and his partners that aren't in the match.
Yes, that is also how Excalibur explained it.
Okay, and we also had at ringside the Beast Mortos and Harley Graham.
Yes, a joke that nobody gets unless they watch Collision.
Yeah, it might have even been Rampage.
That's true.
And so there's no heat at first. They went to break after Cage was curling Hologram. Well, the one thing is, okay, and this I wanted to bring this up. I think maybe Hologram's been on Dynamite once. I'm not even positive of that. Dralistico, I'm almost positive has never been on Dynamite. Cage occasionally is, and Hobbs occasionally is, but most of the time these guys are on Collision. So
I think Hologram once got a teaser promo on Dynamite, and that was it.
Yeah, I'm thinking he may have had a tag match at some point, but again, these people are not well known if you only watch Dynamite, and I contend most people that go to these shows only watch Dynamite if they watch anything. So there was no heat at first, but eventually they got into it because it's luchas and they're fun, but the guy who's getting the biggest push out of these 4, the undefeated guy, was easily the least over and the least focused on in the match, which is Hologram.
Yes.
You barely saw he was there. Dralistico was just running wild constantly. Hobbs and Cage were doing their meat match stuff. And
then they switched partners, and then it kind of fell apart.
Yeah. Dralistico was trying to do a meat match with Hobbs, and that didn't go very well for him. There was one spot where Cage grabbed Hobbs from inside the ring and the second rope and suplexed him outside the ring. And then seconds later, Hobbs had recovered and was thrown around Dralistico. Like the first spot didn't even happen. Then Hobbs did a one-handed power slam on Cage on the apron. Hologram did a rope walk, dived onto Cage. Jalistico springboarded it right into a spine buster by Hobbs, and Hobbs got the pin. And yeah, it was just a showcase of a bunch of lucha and power stuff, and
Yeah,
it's fun.
they say styles makes fights, and conflicting styles can make for a good fight, but doesn't make for a good wrestling match necessarily, because you need to be able to communicate with
Yeah,
the people you're working with. And this match can be summed up by one spot that I think didn't go as it was supposed to go, but it's always a spot in a Brian Cage versus a luchador match, because I watched this at PWG against Aerostar at
okay.
Battle of Los Angeles. And because Brian Cage overestimates his strength. The luchador will come at you full speed, and I'm going to catch you. And then I'm going to be able to stop your momentum and keep you in a stalled suplex for a while. Well, that didn't work, because he came out full speed and he caught him, but he ended up falling over. So they've handled that very well on commentary, but I am certain that Brian Cage was supposed to catch him and stall for it, but the laws of physics, once again, going against Brian Cage when he does that spot, as it does about 9 times out of 10. I'm sorry. He gets it once, and then it's like, oh my God, that's amazing. And it's like, the human body doesn't work like that. Stop that spot, please. It's just go throw around the little guys. It'll all be impressive. Trust me.
Maria points out the hologram was on a few Dynamites, so I'll take her
he?
word for it. And she also points out that Harley was magnificent. I mean, she looked great. I'm not exactly sure what she did.
Harley Cameron is always welcome on any show
Yeah.
I'm watching.
I mean, if she's with hologram, that act's going to be over. I will say that. Like, there's no question. And that might be what he needs to get him to that next level. So that could be a really good pairing.
I am going to look up this, whether or not hologram has been on some Dynamites. I don't
Well,
think that's
after the match, Lance Archer and Mark Davis, who are stablemates of Brian Cage, wandered out, and the announcers pointed out they were mad, even though they didn't really look mad, and nothing really happened. So I'm not exactly sure what the point of them coming out was. Jeff's looking up hologram right now.
He was on a Dynamite in October against Commander.
Okay, that sounds like a Rampage match, but I guess they put it on Dynamite.
Yes, the others are collisions and
okay,
and
but he was on one, so that
yes.
And and maybe he was ringside or something. But I mean, October, that's a long time ago. That's what, 6 months ago. So all right, Alicia Toot. I always thought it was a tout, but I guess it's a toot. Was with the Hurt Business after Revolution. She asked, "What's next?" Shelton asked MVP, "Whose ass we going to beat next?" And MVP says, "That's what I'm talking about. No one works harder. They don't want time off. They just want to know who's next. But because no one works harder than the Hurt Syndicate, no one should play harder than the Hurt Syndicate. So you proved you're the baddest. Now it's time to be the chillest." He says, "Malibu is that way. Vegas is that way." Bobby says, "Which way is the gym?"
But no, he goes, "Which way is Gold's gym?" He wanted to go to Venice in LA, which is even funnier when he does the specifics. So
yeah, and MVP's just not having any of that. And he says, "You guys need to take the week off. Don't come to TV." And Shelton says, "We're gonna take time off, but about that no gym thing." And then MVP's got a big smile, and MVP says, "They're the most dominant faction in wrestling. They don't even want time off. They want to hurt people." That was a fun interview.
Cool. Liked the interview. Didn't need to be an interview. Didn't need Alicia there. And it actually hurt it for me a little bit that he's doing the WWE look at a 45-degree angle because I'm talking to the reporter as opposed to just talking to the fans through the camera. I thought it would have been much more effective that way.
Yeah, and honestly, that is a common thing here. It's becoming like WWE used to be, where they don't need those guys out there.
We don't need the Dasha bots, as Brian used to call them.
Yeah, and it was weird because like they had Alicia, and then all of a sudden it was Renee in every segment. So I don't know if she got there late or what's going on.
I think some were taped at.
Right, you're right. Yeah, this one was taped. You're right.
Yes.
So we got another video package. This one was for the Hollywood ending, and it led to a promo from Tony in front of the live crowd. Okay, I need to take a breath. Hang on.
Well, let me state this. The people who thought that this should have been the main event, It could have been if they hadn't have done Grand Slam Australia or Brisbane. I would have been fine with it, but they did the match at Brisbane, so no, it shouldn't have been the main event.
Well, with hindsight, I mean, it would have been better as the main event than the Mox match. But
I agree.
I would have, if it was my choice, I would have probably had the cage match be the main event. Honestly,
yes,
because you weren't gonna be able to follow that anyways. So, but we got this promo. So she says,
"Here comes the Hays Code violations. Let's go for it."
With stitches in my lip and staples in my head and glass in my ass, I stand before you to tell you that this tramp is still the champ. We get Tony chants. This past Sunday at Revolution, it was my holiday ending, and a chunk of my heart will be gone forever. When I look at this, it was well worth it. She looks at her belt. Now it's time for a new beginning. It is my honor to be your AEW World Women's Champion. And because this is the most talented locker room in all of professional wrestling, we have so many different champions. The other world title is in a bloody briefcase. We have forever champions. We have belt collectors. But when you fight with me, it's like visiting the zoo because I bleed like a pig, I lick like a giraffe, and I will eat you like a lion. But I promise you, you will never hear me meow because I promise that I am no pussy. Nobody swings like Tony Storm. So ladies, put your keys in the bowl and let's get this orgy started. It will be messy and it will be sweaty, but it will always be timeless. And she drops the mic and starts to pose. And then she gets attacked by Megan Bayne, who also poses. And that was that. So yeah, it was, she got a lot in there.
A Key Party reference. I never thought I'd see that on a wrestling show.
Well, she's, I mean, I think she's done that.
Vince McMahon is rolling in his grave that he didn't give this, that he didn't think of this kind of gimmick for her in WWE.
I don't think this gimmick is flying with the sponsors over at WWE.
It may not be flying with the sponsors, but he would love it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to Megan Bayne, huh?
I guess. Yeah. And I mean,
Tony tired of playing with that toy already? It's very odd.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because it seems a little early. Maybe a lot early. But yeah, I mean, she's been fine. Like
no, I like Megan Bayne, but it's also somewhat confusing that we're still sticking her with Statlander and that crew down there as well later in the night. So it's something where it feels like, well, we're gonna beat her.
Yeah, and then
you know, we're keeping our powder dry. We're not gonna make the same mistake we made with Camille here.
I mean, they could. I mean, she could lose, and then the idea could be that she took her lightly, or she was beat up from Mariah or something, and then you have the redemption story.
They're not hot shotting the title.
Probably not. Probably not. So next
although Megan Bayne is still impressive, but she still hasn't said anything. Which right now, there are gonna be people. There's like, I think Alvarez is gonna be saying why hasn't she got a promo as to why she's here, et cetera.
Maybe she needs a manager.
I think at this point, we've been this many weeks without her saying anything. She should stay quiet.
She should probably be in the Hurt business.
She should be in a stable of some kind. I think, as the heavy hitter, representing the women or something like that. But I mean, there's a lot of people that need to be in a group. If they did stables well in this company, which I don't think they do necessarily, they have good groups, but they don't act like units for the most part. And that's always been my problem. It's just, they're more factional, like New Japan kind of thing. They're loose confederations of allies as opposed to actual working units.
Yeah, like we had Callis family people all over the
Horsemen or the Dangerous Alliance or something like that, which I think is I mean, like, look, I wanted women involved in men's stables for a long time, and they just never want to pull the trigger on that. So stop it.
Yeah. Actually, Transferring Heat brings up she's doing Joel Gertner.
A little bit.
Yeah,
but I mean that was also the gimmick. The whole gimmick was Hays Code stuff. So
and what can you get away with? Yeah. All right. Next up, we got
her finisher should be the double entendre.
Yeah, there you go. Tournament match. The Beast Mortos is in the ring already. I guess he got injured during the break because Justin said his opponent, and it's Speedball Mike Bailey. And the music starts. and people don't recognize it, obviously. And then his name appears on the screen, and a few
They
people
hear
recognize it.
the chant in the music though, because it says
Yeah.
Speedball.
Okay. But there wasn't a huge pop.
No.
Now the
Let me hold back.
Okay.
We had a teaser video that they reference on Dynamite, like what, 3-4 weeks ago
on Collision.
Oh, was it Collision or was it Dynamite?
No, it was on Collision.
It was just Collision.
Yes, one time on
AEW
Collision.
needs a hard and fast rule.
Yes.
That for debuts, we need 2 or 3 straight weeks of vignettes and a music video highlighting their moves. We cannot be doing this because this is malpractice, because Mike Bailey's the kind of guy that needs help. He's not a great promo necessarily. He's an undersized guy, has a great gimmick, not doing the full LaRussa, which is unfortunate for me, but I mean, I like
Yeah, he didn't get to do his speed kicks in this match.
Right.
Yeah.
But we need to teach these Dynamite fans who this person is, and that we need to be excited for him when they come out. We just need to do the basic build stuff as opposed to booking him in a match. He's the wild card. Oh, it's a shock. And then
can I say Excalibur did a good job of explaining.
He did a very good job.
Yeah, he explained his history.
But that's not my point.
Yeah, no, it needed to be before he got there. You're right. Now he came out, and the music was a vague ripoff of his indie music, which is Brass Monkey by the Beastie Boys. You can kind of hear it if you know that. I wish he would have just paid for Brass Monkey because that's a great entrance, but whatever. And they went out there and they had a Beast Mortos Speedball Mike Bailey match.
Well, but I also think the Beastie Boys charge an excessive amount to use the music.
And GCW ain't paying that, so
right.
Yeah. But yeah, they one thing I really liked in this, Excalibur explained his finisher, and then at one point he went for it, but Mortos got out of the way because Mortos, scouts Mike Bailey and knows his moveset, I guess. And then he never actually did it, so we're left wanting, which I really liked. Yeah, he got to do a bunch of cool stuff there, and Mortos did his cool stuff as well. He ended up hitting he did a thrust kick, went into a standing shooting star press, and then he hit a crescent kick and got the pin. And it was really cool. They went through a commercial break. It was basically like a truncated version of what you would see on pay-per-view from a Mike Bailey match. He's capable of a lot more, but I'm sure next week in the 4-way, we'll get to see a lot more of him. But I thought it was a decent debut, but he's got a bit of an uphill climb.
Let me pitch something to you to help him even.
Okay.
Kind of an anti-Malachi Black thing, where Max Caster throws out his open challenge. Mike Bailey comes out, just kicks him in the head and pins him 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, that'd work. Instead of this, or
I'm not even instead. I mean,
or maybe like after this tournament's done.
You can do this after the tournament,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Because right now he's just he's this guy. He's gonna be in there. He's gonna do some moves. I don't think he's winning the 4-way. So
no. I think
so. It's one of those things where it's how we can build him up again, and that's how we do it.
I think it's gonna be Ricochet, who's gonna win this tournament. Could be Mark Briscoe.
I think Briscoe takes the fall.
Yeah, I mean that's possible too. I mean, you know what? Honestly, Speedball could win it. Speedball and Omega is a match I'm not sure I've ever seen, and that match would be really cool. So,
trying to think if I've seen it, but
I've seen Omega. I've seen Ospreay wrestle Speedball a couple times, and those were awesome. But I don't know if I've seen Omega. I'm sure that's happened, but I don't, because I mean, Speedball's wrestled everyone. And that's one thing, actually, that's the one thing Excalibur didn't mention that he probably could have, is that like for years now, Mike Bailey has wrestled more than anyone in all of wrestling in multiple promotions, wrestling 5, 6, 7 times a week, all kinds of styles. And yeah, but I mean, he got to show a lot here. And, I thought it was okay. It was like a 6 out of 10 debut.
Yeah. I mean, I was high on Mike Bailey when I was still going to PWG, and I thought maybe if he got NXT to pick him up at that time, he would have been huge doing the LaRussa thing. And then he had the visa issues.
Right, he got signed by NXT, I think, and then because of the visa issues, he couldn't debut.
I don't think he got signed. I think he was scouted, but I don't know if he got signed because
maybe he was offered a contract and he couldn't come in or something.
No, the visa issues happened, and so they couldn't scout him anymore.
Okay.
So they lost interest because he was wasn't declaring that he was coming into work. He was coming in to visit the States. And
then I think the last time he was a free agent, they did offer him a deal, and he chose to stay with TNA at that time. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Renee was with Christian. This is a segment you were talking about. He says, or she says, you signed and executed your title shot. Why did you think that was the time? And he says, you're related to John Moxley, and I refuse to talk to anyone related to him. So this might be the most boring interview in history. And she tries to ask him another question. He just sends her away. So now he talks to the camera.
I wish he had stuck with the bit and just stood there. And then maybe Alicia comes in with a, can I ask you a question then?
Ask away. Yeah.
Alex Marvez shows up to finally get some work.
So he says, I'm going to make it perfectly clear. I'm still the reigning, undisputed, next AEW World Heavyweight Champion, and I demand my contract be returned to me. The ref turned it into a three-way. I was not expecting that. I wasn't expecting John Moxley to grab me in an illegal chokehold. I did not tap out. I did not pass out. I was merely relaxing my breathing to prepare to get out of the hold. He's interrupted by, of all people, Nick Wayne, who grows a set. And he says, you're just making excuses. You're lying to yourself, to these people, and to us. Did you not remember the original plan? Maybe if you stuck to that plan, you'd be AEW World Champion right now. So not only do you owe us an explanation, you owe us an apology. And Christian says, I'm sorry it's come to this, Nick. Shoved him. Shayna steps up to him. Christian gets in her face and says, you watch yourself. You're going to be back working midnights at Waffle House. She backs off right away.
I popped.
And he says, who are you to question me? How many world titles have you won? How many world titles did your biological father ever win? You could have ended up a loser like your father, a coward that died in front of your mother's face. You don't think I'm good enough, Nick? I'm going to be the AEW World Championship. So shut your mouth and keep riding my coattails, because the next time we have this conversation will be the last time. He left. Kip followed him, and Shayna and Nick stayed on screen, and she consoled him. This was, I mean, it came out of nowhere in terms of like teasing dissension between Nick Wayne and Christian, but other than that, it was pretty good.
I liked it. I think it went a little bit too hard because I think this is a total ruse.
100%.
And it should have been maybe a little bit more subtle, like Wayne or like Nick just starting with, why didn't you stick with the plan? And then that gets his ire, kind of. I just, it feels so put upon.
Nick was trying so hard to keep a straight face.
Because Christian was obviously trying to make him corpse with the whole. Watch the noses.
Yeah,
watch him. He's almost like rubbing noses and stuff, trying to get him to laugh at this thing.
And probably trying to break Renee too. Honestly, because she was probably off screen watching.
Yeah, I really like Christian as a heel. It's a shame because I want to cheer him because he doesn't have much time left. But I also don't like the patriarchy as a unit because it's not doing anything for anybody else in there except Christian.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, it's the same thing as Jericho with all his stables.
Yeah, it's like we're going to stick these guys together and it'll help this person grow. And nothing's happened with Nick Wayne since.
And people will tell you that it helped Jungle Boy and it didn't.
No.
Yeah. Where is Jungle Boy, by the way? Yeah.
Kind of helped Wheeler Yuta. Kind of.
Yeah, maybe. Lexi was with MJF after Revolution. She was outside of his locker room, and she said she's been standing there for 10 minutes, and I've heard commotion and yelling inside. So she wanders into the room. MJF is screaming at himself in the mirror, and he punches the mirror. Then he sees Lexi, and he tells her to get out. So.
Oh, I have seen this. There was a Kenny Omega versus Mike Bailey match.
Okay, what was it, PWG?
Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, PWG All-Star Weekend in 2015. That was when I was still going. Okay.
So not that long ago, even 10 years ago. Yeah. All right. Out comes MJF. So they done that promo, and then he does a live promo here. Comes out, he says, cut my music.
All right, stop for a moment, though.
Okay.
The pre-tape one was so
stupid.
It was so soap opera melodrama. She walks in I can't stand to look at myself.
Yeah, and punches the thing and
I'm
hurts
just like,
his hand.
No, that's some beta energy. Don't do that. But I liked this.
So he comes out, his music gets a huge pop. Then he says, cut my music. I got a splitting headache. My hand hurts. My body hurts. But what hurts the most is the
orange.
fact, yeah, is the fact that I know it, and all you stupid schmucks at home know it. All you dumb, ignorant losers in this hick town know it. I had that match won on Sunday, but your cowardly cowboy cheap shot at me just like he did in 2019 and got a fluky victory. The commentators are sure to tell us that he's full of shit. He says, congrats, Hangman. I'll tell you this. They can chant your name all they want, but I'm not upset anymore. I fought long and hard about it. The factor of the matter is I'm 10 times smarter than you and all your stupid fans will always be. I think 10 steps ahead of each and every one of you, and I'll get mine, cowboy. But this thing between me and you, it ain't over, boy, not by a long shot. And then music hits. And at first I thought it was Hangman's music, but it was Hurt Syndicate. So he comes out, the fans are chanting MVP. And MJF looks at him. He says, MVP. And MVP looks at him and he says, MJF. And they hugged. And MJF says, how the hell you been, man? What are you doing out here, dude? And MVP says, I'm doing magnificently well. I came out here to talk to you. He looks at the crowd. He says, I'm proud of him. Look, listen, you're not the same 18-year-old kid I met 8 years ago. They don't know about that, do they? Well, can I tell you about our history? When young Maxwell Jacob Friedman was 18 years old, he volunteered to drive from Philly to Asbury Park for the low, low price of being able to sit next to me and ask questions about the pro wrestling business. What impressed me was that he was wasn't what he was asking, it was the questions. His intelligence showed me that he was someone to be reckoned with. Shortly after that, we met at an indie company in Florida. I saw you had huge aura. I knew you'd be a star, and I was happy to work with you. You had a temerity that you can't teach. You told me back then that you would be a world heavyweight, main event, world champion. You, my friend, did everything you said you were going to do, and it's for that reason I'm proud of you. But what I am not proud of, and you can't possibly be proud of, is what happened to you on Sunday. What are you doing, man? Why are you out here talking to these people about what's happening? Whining about what's happened? How come you're not angry, kicking people, punching in the face? How come you're not hurting people? And then he looks at him. He says, you see, I know the answer. You've lost your edge. Look how they treat you. They don't respect you, man. They don't fear you. But you know who they do fear? They fear the Hurt Syndicate. And that, my friend, is what you're missing. I was able to help you a long time ago, and perhaps I might be able to help you again. When I first showed up here, it was a matter of introducing myself. People understood where MVP and the Hurt Syndicate go. That's where championships go. So this card is a golden ticket. He pulls out his business card. It's an opportunity to change your career. Maybe young Maxwell Jacob Friedman can, he says MVP and young Maxwell Jacob Friedman can talk some business. And he offers him the card. MJF pushes it back. And he says, with all due respect, it's a very short list of people I respect, and you're one of them. However, I'm not the same bright-eyed, bushy-tailed kid I once was. I don't need your help, and I don't need your advice. I'm MJF, and I was the world champion for 406 consecutive days. That got a big pop from the crowd. MVP says, focus on the word was. And he offers the card again. This time, MJF takes it, taps him on the shoulder, and he left him in the ring. I like this. I like this pairing.
I liked it. I thought this would have been better served cut in half for time and done as a backstage vignette. I don't think this should have been done in front of a crowd. I get that they were trying to get here's our entire backstory and during this promo or whatnot, but this got long-winded, and I think it should have just been, hey, Max breaks the mirror.
And MVP, then MVP walks in.
Walking by, knocks on the door. When you're ready to get focused again, I knew you when you were young. Give me a call. Give him the card. That's all it needed to be to me. I like everybody involved in this. I got bored during this segment.
You could have even done it as one shot after that Hurt Syndicate promo when Hurt Syndicate leaves. And then you see MVP walking
by, and then he hears the glass break.
Yeah, and he looks at MJF and he opens the door. And then, what are you doing here? I haven't seen you since Florida.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then he's like, when you're done whining, give me a call.
Yes, this
something
is
like
one of
that.
the
Yeah.
this is one of those things
Yeah.
that did not need to be in front of a crowd.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I did like, I probably more like the idea, the concept than the actual
No, and
execution.
I think MVP. Look, I said this when he was in the Pinnacle and being the lead of that. There is nothing wrong with having a second mouthpiece with MVP to play off of. It does, and MVP or I mean off of MJF, and MJF seems to not like that because he didn't want Tully Blanchard talking for the Pinnacle at all. And like, are you kidding
he needs
me?
to watch some Flair and JJ.
You know,
Like,
Percy Pringle and Rude, Heenan and Rude, you know, JJ and Flair. Exactly. JJ and Arn, JJ and Tully.
I'm picturing a group with MVP, Lashley and Shelton holding those tag belts, MJF, and Megan Bain standing behind them. That group is money.
That would be,
and Megan Bain is MJF's bodyguard.
Personal bodyguard, my perfect 10. Yeah, whatever you want to do with it. Yeah. I also thought MVP was going, you know what? When I first got here, I was handing out all these cards to non-Caucasian.
I was getting ready to write that down. You're the first white boy I've tapped.
You're the first white boy. Today's white boy day. Come on in.
Yeah, that's why I put on the orange face. That's why I put on the orange banner.
That's why I look like a giant Oompa Loompa right now. Thank you.
Yeah. Speaking of people that got offered cards, we next go to the Max Caster Open Challenge. He says, "You're looking live at the best wrestler alive. Thanks to all the Maximaniacs, I have the most popular shirt at Shop AEW. I always was and always will be the top star of the Acclaimed. And Platinum Max also has the most popular chant in AEW. We tried it last week, but Fresno, let's give it a shot. Let's go after me. Let's go, Max. You're the best wrestler alive." And I did that with way more rhythm than he did.
Yes.
I can't even begin to talk about how badly he did this chant.
No, crowd but boos. It's ironically getting over.
Oh yeah. And crowd boos. Brian Alvarez is out to lunch saying that this is not working because this is working. Obviously the people in Fresno are stupid, and whoever answers my open challenge is stupid as well. So who can survive the best wrestler alive? So who should answer the challenge but Konosuke Takeshita? Comes out with no Don Callis. Fans start chanting, "You fucked up." Caster looks like he's seen a ghost. But he grabs a mic and he says, and the fans are chanting, "You fucked up." He says, "Thank you all for your concern." But he says, "There's no way you're here to fight me. I'm the best wrestler alive. I'd freaking kill you. What are you doing? You must be here to invite me into the Don Callis family." Well, what can the Don Callis family do for the best wrestler alive? Main event the Tokyo Dome? Get me a recording contract? Maybe, Takeshita, I can do the thing you weren't able to do and beat Kenny Omega. Takeshita just drops him with an elbow.
Yes.
Goes to pin him, pulls him up at 2, hits him with the Raging Fire, and gets the pin. This is perfect.
This is exactly what it needed to be, and it's got my wheels churning.
Okay.
Because yes, you could keep him a heel. And you could have Anthony Bowens or Billy Gunn come out here and beat him and get the big pop. But I'm trying to think, okay, if this starts getting more and more over, how do we make this into a babyface thing? And who is the most hated person that he could possibly pin to get there? And I came up with an unusual answer, and I want to know if I'm nuts or not.
Ricochet?
Don Callis.
Oh.
Like Don Callis comes out full of himself. You know, maybe he's not even there to wrestle or whatever, but he just answers because he's like, "Look, it looks like you're having trouble here and you've already gotten beat up by a few of my men, whatever." And then Caster ends up pinning, like rolling him up for 3. And then getting a huge ovation or whatever. But it has to be somebody who is far more hated than Max Caster. And that's the only guy I can think of on this roster.
Yeah, I mean, the only...
Because it feels like they're painting themselves into a bit of a corner because I'm laughing more and more each week with how stupid he is.
Ricochet is close.
Yeah, but you don't want to pin Ricochet with Max Caster.
True, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I assume
MJF came to mind, but I don't want to beat MJF either
they
necessarily.
kind of did that already too. With
With
remember
the
when Sean
captain,
Dean? Yeah.
Captain Sean Dean. Boy,
Yeah.
that helped him a lot, didn't it?
Oh yeah. So yeah, that was that. It was fun. Then we got highlights from the Revolution pre-show, which led into a Jericho promo. He's sitting in a chair. He's got Gravity's mask. He says, "Gravity." And if you're wondering who Gravity is, it doesn't matter. Gravity is the perfect word, isn't it, Bandito? That's what's been introduced into our situation. Temperature in the room has changed, and I know you can feel it. I humiliated you in front of your family. I embarrassed your brother, scared your sister, made your mother cry in front of you, Bandito. How do you come back from that, knowing the disappointment she has is your shame, isn't it? Maybe you brought it upon yourself, or maybe you're just the unlucky son of a bitch when Chris Jericho stopped realizing that people were taking Chris Jericho for granted. He crumpled up the mask and he threw it to the ground. So I guess we're getting a rematch of Jericho and Bandito.
Alas, poor Yorick. I do him, Horatio, a fellow of infinite jest and of most excellent fancy.
It was Chris Jericho doing Shakespeare.
Yes. It's pretty much
Last poor York, I knew him well. When Hamlet took him up, he literally looked like hell. Who's that Trevor behind the bush? That Scorpio checking out her tush. That's the Shakespeare rap. All right. Oh my God.
Years of college, and I've never been more humiliated.
Next we got, and speaking of, this is like Mystery Vortex. All of a sudden, Willow Nightingale's music.
It was.
Yeah. And she just wanders out there, and then another music plays, and it's Penelope Ford. Like, what? Okay.
I had the same reaction. I'm like, what?
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, they're
it does not make sense because Willow has been nowhere near the Megan Bain, Penelope Ford, Chris Statlander, Thunder Rosa feud.
I thought she was. Okay. No, I guess, yeah, Willow's been feuding with Marina, right?
No, Willow's been feuding with Marina.
Well, now she's feuding with Penelope Ford. So
once again, Marina becomes a MacGuffin. That one's for Curry Head. There we go.
The crowd was dead, I wrote, and why wouldn't they be? They went to commercial after a Penelope Ford knee drop. They came back. Willow was making a comeback. No reaction. They botched a few spots, including a roll up. They trade kicks. I think Willow got nailed hard way because she was bleeding by the end of the match. She did her matrix, went for a stunner, missed it. Willow hit the pounce and got the pin. This was not good at all. And that's it. She came up after she's like bleeding from the teeth. And then just to make this all better, Penelope attacked her with a steel chair. She hit her with a chair shot that would have made Lance Storm like say, hey, get in there a little heavier. And then started stomping her with these comical boots. And I'm just like, what is going on? And then Chris Statlander, of all people, made the save. She comes out. She got rid of Ford. Willows doesn't like Statlander being out there. They're arguing. Megan Bain showed up again, clotheslined them both, gave Statlander an F5 and posed over her. And that was that.
There's a story, and I forgot what wrestlers it was, but it's 80s or 70s wrestlers, when everybody has to be grizzled and protect the business. Some guys throwing like lousy punches or something like that. So it's an older guy backstage. I don't remember the particulars, but he goes, all right, enough of this. Going out to a bar, and you're going to get into a fight. Just to see how people are supposed to throw punches. And he made this kid get into a bar fight just to see what it was like to both get punched and to have to throw actual punches.
Right.
Because he couldn't do it. I wouldn't say we need to do this with Penelope necessarily. But that chair shot, that's a perfect analogy. I mean, even Lance Storm, who's the lightest chair shot guy in the world, hey, lay it in a bit so I can feel it.
Yeah. Oh, this was, and then, yeah, I think she was probably.
And the funny thing was, she did the swing back great, and then it was like,
Yeah. I think she was spooked because she had hurt her earlier and she didn't want to hurt her again.
Yeah, I get that, but still.
Yeah. So that was that. Then we go backstage to Renee, and she's with Mercedes Moné. She calls her 4 belts Moné. Renee, she tries to do her catchphrase, but she's got no voice because she got hit in the throat on
She has a
Sunday.
giant bruise all from her
Yeah.
chin down to her neck, but I didn't. It's like, I got you. It's like, yeah.
So she asked Renee to do her catchphrase, and she says, "Fresno, say hello to your CEO," and she's so proud of herself. And Mercedes was not impressed. And so she says, "That was another impressive victory. You're now 15-0 in TBS championship matches." And then she asked about Billy Starks. And then Billy Starks walks in and she said, "Well, you were watching and taking notes. What did you learn?" And she says, "Not to get kicked in the throat. Oh, sorry, my bad. On a serious note, you've accomplished a lot being here. You're covered in gold. I've accomplished a lot too. I was the first ROH TV champion at 19. We aren't that different. We started very young. Wrestling is our everything. You're the one that says money changes everything. Well, I've been looking for a change. So next week, I'm looking to change into a champion." And then Mercedes just looks at her and says, "You know what, Billy? You're way out of your league. But I appreciate that you're a student of the game. So I'm going to prove it to you that there's a price to pay when you mess with Mercedes Moné." And that was that. So we're going to get
Jen
a squash.
Pepperman's special.
Yeah.
Boy,
Billy
did
was
I
fine.
hate. No, she wasn't.
Mm.
Because it would have had a lot more resonance if she hadn't have been passive aggressive with the answer.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
It's like, if she had looked at her and goes, "Well, I can see you're tough. I can see you can be in a fight, and I know you can handle yourself, and that you don't quit." Well, I don't quit either. You know, just something like that, where it's like the tone is far different, because we as an audience, unless we're following AEW's social media platform, have no emotional connection to the Billy Stark story with Athena. We
No.
don't.
No, unless you're watching ROH or
Yes,
yeah.
and this and that's what I'm saying. And this is the setup for that. And
Yeah.
what we need is to somehow be sympathetic to Billy Starks and want her to win. And instead she's coming off as a jerk.
And did you know that the current storyline is that she's being abused by Athena?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, because that clearly is not coming through on this show.
Because Athena
Like,
didn't go full babyface, right? She's a heel.
oh,
Still?
she's a 100% heel. Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay.
But
No,
but Billy
I
is
don't
kind of a
see,
jerk too, like
I
in
don't
ROH.
watch Ring of Honor. Well, that's fine, but Mercedes is a heel. I mean, it's one of
Yeah.
those things where it's like the tone of this is all wrong.
And they dropped the whole Lexi thing too. They fired her.
Yes, I know. I saw that, and that was for the
Yeah.
heel move, and I get that. But we should have had at least 2 matches by Billy Starks to set up this match somehow.
Yeah.
I don't get why they don't do. Well, we can't, because we need more bangers on this show. No, we don't. We need story building on the weekly television, and we need to have some reason to care about Billy Starks, and we don't, because she's just a name. And we're told, they're telling, not showing, "Oh, I was a Ring of Honor champion of some form," of which nobody knows that because they don't even watch Collision.
Yes. So
And
now
rant, this has been my TED Talk.
So we go to the ring and we see Tony Schiavone out there, and he brings in Will Ospreay. And oh my God, Will Ospreay! I don't want to say he was on something, but he comes out and he says, "How's it going, people? Mate, honestly, I've got about 4 stitches here." And he pulls up his shirt and he said, "This bit is glued together. I don't even know how it happened. I think I got stabbed." He said, "But I made it out alive, people." And Schiavone said, "It's amazing he's still standing." He says, "Mate, I was scared for my life. But the scariest bit for me was Kyle Fletcher. At that age, I couldn't keep up with him. One day, Kyle Fletcher will be a world champion, and I hope that the next time we meet, I can stand here and say I'm the better man. I won't lie to you. I'm in a bit of trouble with my wife. Fair enough, I lied to her. I can feel you all judging me, but listen, I had to lie. On Saturday, the day before the cage match, she calls me. Says, 'Babe, I'm nervous. I'm scared. Please don't do anything stupid.' I said, 'Babe, I'm not doing anything stupid off the cage. I got back problems.' But I didn't realize we were on Amazon Prime. And I realized it was bad when I was standing up there looking down, and there was a guy in a green shirt with a camera phone and chanting, 'Please don't die.' So I go back after the match. I had 15 missed calls from the missus. I knew I was in trouble, but I called her back, and it was like pulling a pin out of a grenade. But she was happy. She says, 'I'm so happy you're okay.' And then she loses it. Says, 'You jumped off the flipping cage.' But thankfully, I'm a charming man. I said, 'Babe, I'm back on Friday. I'll give you a damn seating too.' I seating. I don't know what he said, but he says, "What's
I think
next?"
I think it's a sex metaphor, but
It was definitely a sex metaphor, but I wasn't sure exactly what he said. But Tony asked him, "What's next for Will Ospreay?" He said, "Well, what's next after that cage match? I want to be the guy. But to be the guy, there should be something around my waist. Well, next week, Cope has his world title match, and at Dynasty, Swerve has his world title match, and it leaves me to ask, when do I call my shot? And it makes me wonder, when does it matter most?" And he turns around and he looks at the All In Texas sign, and he says, "Damn right, I hear the chants. So I set myself an objective, a mission. I want to be in the main event Saturday, July 12th at Globe Life Field at All In, Texas. I can get there by entering the Owen Hart tournament. I plan on going through every single person that stands in my way. If it's you, Cope, if it's Swerve, if it's Moxley, the one true king. Well, my king, a warning in advance. An assassin is coming for your throne. I want to be the world champion because they trust me with AEW. I want to be the guy because I know I can do it. I want to be the world champion because my name is Will Ospreay and I am on another level." I thought they could have done without the wife stuff in the middle. But other than that, I thought this was really good. And I like the objective of All In and setting the stage for the Owen and all that. It's going to get people excited for him at All In going for the title. So
got Kevin Ely excited.
did it? Larry Stern
Buying
too.
tickets. Yeah, first half of this promo, I wrote down John Cena promo. That's what this was. And I didn't like the tip of the cap to Kyle Fletcher.
I actually did like that.
But I didn't, because it's like it was a blood feud. He should still be mad in some ways. He doesn't need to do the tip of the cap. Hey, thanks for the great match.
Okay, yeah, I get that.
For me. I beat him and now I'm moving on. That's to me what it should have been. But yeah, and then okay, he's in the Owen.
What I really like is that, like, we had these big matches, and I was wondering coming out of Revolution, like, what was the point of some of these matches? And now we can see Swerve's the number one contender. Ospreay is set up to challenge for the title. Like, it meant something that these people got wins.
Yeah, we might be lining up a few too many contenders, but we have contenders. Because we have Edge, or we have Cope coming back to try and say, "Hey, yeah, I'm still a contender here, and then I'll be a contender after this, even if I lose."
And
you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Jay White right after this, then too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So we go to Jay White with Renee, and he says, "Ospreay, Ospreay, Ospreay, Ospreay." He says, "Willie, you really are on another level. It's great to see and hear from you. Maybe someday we can see each other in the ring again. Congratulations on Revolution. But just a couple nights later, you're begging for me." I wrote down, I don't think that's what he said, but it says, "Calling your shot, saying you'll be the AEW World Champion at All In. Well, they'll have to keep protecting you and keeping you from me like they've always done." And then Renee asked what happened with Cope. And he says, "I get it. After what happened, everyone wants to know what I did. Did I hit Cope with the briefcase on purpose? Fresno, my Fresno faithful, do you think I did it on purpose?" And there's kind of a mixed reaction. He says, "Well, the answer is no. I said I'd have that man's back, and I said I'd see him as the new AEW World Champion, and I failed. And as far as the number one contender goes, whose house, Swerve, Schmerv, I did everything I could to take down the Death Riders. At World's End, the rat saved his king, but I'll be damned if I let anyone else take my place as the number one contender." So I don't think we've seen the last of Jay White in this.
I wish he'd slow down on his promos. He rushes through all his words in his story and doesn't really, because I think he'd be a very good Dark Heel. But also, I just found the ridiculous. Do you think I hit him on purpose? Nobody thought you hit him on purpose, Jay. Nobody.
Well, except everybody.
No, we don't need to put. Well, but I mean, even when watching the match, nobody thought he did it on purpose. It was and to put that into the vernacular now means he's going to hit him on purpose. That's my problem with it.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
It's Chekhov's briefcase is coming again.
I just got the okay from the network. We're going overtime.
I didn't realize we have 45
That's okay.
seconds left. Okay.
No, that's fine. We got the okay from the network, so we're good.
Tony does it every week, so we might as well.
Yeah, exactly. Freaking main event started at the top of the hour. So Renee was walking backstage with Hangman, and she's trying to ask him questions, and he bumps into MJF. And MJF says, "You want to go, cowboy? You want me to finish breaking your neck?" He says, "I was thinking about last week. Oh, this is Hangman. He says, I was thinking about last week. You tried to light me on fire. I don't believe you. When you do something like that, you have to mean it. But you know what else I don't believe you about? You let your mask slip. You care what these people think about you. And MJF says, you thought I was bluffing? First off, I'm taking a step back because you smell like rotten ass. I'm going to make sure and call your bluff. What happens next in your story? You beat MJF. Congratulations. Fluke victory. We're 1-1. Now I go on to become a multiple-time world champion, first ballot Hall of Famer, one of the greatest of all time. You're going to scratch and claw your way to the top of the mountain, and just as you're about to reach the pinnacle, you'll come tumbling down and wallow in your self-pity. Your biggest insecurity is that you don't think you deserve their love. One day these people will get sick and tired of you trying to win the big one. You'll never make them proud, but I'm going to win that world title over and over and over again, and I'll be laughing at you the entire way you're climbing up that mountain. And then Hangman just says, we'll see, won't we? They do a long, awkward stare, and MJF walks off, and just a little brief thing in Hangman's eye was like, I think he was gotten to. I liked this and I didn't like it.
I like it if they don't even look at each other for 6 months.
Yes. But what I don't like is that Hangman
it's a nice little coda.
And the idea they're telling you is that MJF is the real contender and Hangman just got to win.
Yeah.
You know, which because Hangman doesn't seem to be interested in the world title, even though he just beat the former champion.
Yeah, I think he shouldn't have blown off the loss. I think he should. Okay, you got the win over me. Congratulations.
Yeah.
But you still have your doubts. You know, just like, you know, hey, you know, that's where the passive aggressive is better it's like, yeah, don't deflect that you lost. Okay, I admit it. You beat me. But they're never going to love you. It's like, yeah, but I can top that and make you feel insecure right now. And then I'm going to leave.
The next time they should meet is in December, and Hangman should win his ring.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or MVP screws him.
Yeah, could do that too. And then we get to our main event. Orange Cassidy and Hechicero. And the intro started with 5 minutes left in the show. Jim Ross joined them on commentary.
Why?
I don't know. By the time they were in the ring and the match, the bell rang, there were 2 minutes left in the show. And they just wrestled for a couple minutes. Then they go to commercial at the top of the hour.
Yes.
And someone in the chat here said,
hated it. But yeah, okay, while you look for that.
It was Greg. I don't know if he's still here.
First thing Jim Ross does is he starts mocking Hechicero's nicknames. I'm just like, what are you doing?
The Alchemist, yeah. Yeah, because Jim Ross has no idea who Hechicero is.
Mr. Director of Talent Relations on commentary again.
Yeah.
That's a stupid nickname for a wrestler. Okay, great.
Crowbar, our buddy, says the picture during the overrun insulted me. Yeah. I mean, insulted me because people are going to wonder why this show dies in the ratings. And when you go to commercial at the top of the hour, 2 minutes into an Orange Cassidy Hechicero match, people aren't coming back from the break.
Yes.
They're moving on with their life because not a person on earth thought Hechicero was winning this match. And I mean, Orange Cassidy is, you know, he's kind of a big deal, but it's not an enhancement match, but might as well have been. Now, the story of the match, I mean, they only gave him like 7 or 8 minutes, and it was, you know, Hechicero's working over his different limbs so that he couldn't hit any of his signature moves. And, you know, so he took out the arm so he couldn't do the Superman punch. He took out his knee, and then there's something else too. The back, you get the backbreaker. And then, Orange Cassidy just rolled him up with the seatbelt and got the pin.
I love Hechicero so much. Every match he does is interesting to me. And in a different time, he'd be a Gary Hart guy. And it'd be one of those things where it's like, you know how you have the criminal gang, and you know, you have the enforcer, and you have the crazy guy, and then you have like the doctor who like lost his medical license but knows how to torture you or whatever. That's Hechicero in the group. And I find that aspect of his game so like the whole thing with the joint manipulation, so he couldn't get the hands in the pocket.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where I'm just like, we're not giving this guy his due because he's a luchador and he's under a mask, but he's the type of guy in an 80s territorial system that I would love in a stable full of guys, because it's like he's a little bit different. His method, it's like, okay, this guy failed. I'm sending my next mercenary after you. This is Hechicero. He's an alchemist. He's a doctor. He'll put you in pain, kind of, and then you give him a couple of squash matches to show what he could do. And you go, okay, I'm ready for this match. This is awesome. Also, why we need squash matches back. But it's one of those things where I'm just like, man. And they had him in, who was he with that it was unusual? It was with Roddy and.
Yeah. He was it him? Yeah. He joined, he was in the Undisputed Kingdom, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
What happened to that whole thing?
I don't know, because they were trying to get Mortos too, right?
Yes, they were trying to recruit. What was his name? Where he's wearing the polo shirt?
Frank V. Mortos.
Frank V. Mortos. It was stupid but endearing in a way. But I like the fact that
Mortos and
latched on with the
Hechicero
game.
would be an amazing tag team.
Yes,
like in the Callis family.
Well, we need another manager, and it's not going to be Jake the Snake, because Jake the Snake.
Get rid of the Archer.
Give me Roosh, Hechicero, and Mortos as a stable, and I'm fine, man. That would be fun.
Yeah, well, Roosh is suspended.
Roosh is kind of complaining a little bit on the old X.
Yeah, is he?
Yeah,
because he's suspended.
Oh, he's waiting for a phone call. Is he suspended?
Or is no, that's a storyline reason. I heard he had visa issues, but if he's complaining
that might be
on X,
everybody's having visa issues these days.
No,
so.
It's just Roosh.
Well, no, but I mean in other companies as well.
Yes, yeah. And that's why Mike Bailey took so long to debut, because I think he signed in like October, but this was like the first time.
Well, he needs to be careful, because he's been dinged a couple times.
So during here, they announced we're getting Mark Briscoe and Mark Davis on Collision as part of the tournament.
How about that? Yeah,
Shibata and Ricochet, and FTR versus Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong, which they actually set up last week.
That should be fun.
Yeah, well, they did that match a couple weeks ago, and it was great. Yeah. And then I wrote down 8-minute overrun for that, and then it wasn't over because some music hit that I didn't recognize, and then out comes Speedball, gets no reaction. He bowed with a goofy smile, and the show was over.
That's Speedball, though, so that is
Speedball. Take it or leave it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think he's gonna be over at some level, but he's not gonna be a difference maker or anything.
He's gonna be mid-card tier guy on Collision. We'll possibly get a cult following, because he still has the youngish good looks despite being in his 30s, and he'll be
in the Continental Classic at the end of the year, and
to quote the Great White Hype, $2 on the clean cut white boy. So yes, I think it's one of those things where I think, he could get the following with the ladies and stuff, and get a bit of a cult following there if the neckbeards follow.
Believe it or not, if you look at my pictures in my grade 12 yearbook, I look like Mike Bailey. So it's like when I first saw Mike Bailey, it was me jumped into a time machine into like 2015 or whatever.
Oh, it's a straight out of 1989 haircut.
And that was me in 1989. You're literally the year I graduated in 88.
Pontiac Fiero blasting a little bit of Foreigner on the old cassette player.
But like even the cheekbones and everything, like it's kind of uncanny.
You pumping your fist of hot blood as you drive down the street.
Yeah. And I was in better shape back then too. So probably wider shoulders than Speedball, and but at the time I was pretty thin. So yeah, that was that. We're gonna get next week. It'll be Orange Cassidy and Speedball against, and probably Mark Briscoe and Shibata. No, Ricochet.
Yes,
Ricochet. So yeah, probably Ricochet winning that.
Probably Ricochet, I would think.
Yeah, Ricochet and Omega, and then Ricochet's probably gonna have to lose again, which kind of sucks, but whatever. That's why I think Speedball might win, because I think Speedball could win and then lose to Kenny, and that's not really gonna.
And it's Dynasty, and it's a B pay-per-view kind of. So yeah.
And I don't think Ricochet needs to be losing a pay-per-view match already. But, I mean, it's not really going to hurt him that much if he does. I guess we'll find out. We'll know next week. So, that is that. We did go over just like Dynamite did. And, and somebody had wanted us to talk about NXT. We didn't really have time, but it was a great show.
Right.
Matthew likes Will Ospreay. So,
yes,
you can go back and listen. I recapped his promo almost word for word, and we gave our thoughts. I think him challenging for the world title at All In is a smart idea. So I'll leave it at that. There's a small chance I may be able to go. So Hoping. Get your plugs in, Jeffy.
At Crap Game 13 on Elon Musk's X platform, I do a show called Shake Them Ropes. You can just follow that at Shake Them Ropes. This week, we do a post-mortem on Revolution as well, in addition to that lovely NXT show from last night. An Invader Club this week. Because of the John Cena turn, I have selected another turn that's very famous, and we'll go over that and the follow-up on the syndicated television, but it will be Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard versus Barry Windham and Lex Luger from Clash of the Champions 1, and the fallout from it.
Was that the one where Barry Windham got his hand?
No, that's the one where you're thinking of Larry Zbyszko and Anderson breaking his hand in the car. No, this is the one where Barry joined the Horsemen.
Okay, yeah, I do remember that. I was watching Mid-South at the time, and they are UWF, and they showed the highlights.
Yes, because they were doing the Wrestling Network stuff at the time there. Yeah.
Sounds awesome.
It's a fun angle. It really is.
I will be filling in this week for John LaRocca on the Fight Game podcast on Wrestling Observer. So we're going to do the show one day later because Garrett wants to cover SmackDown since we're expecting some news coming out of that show. So we're going to do it Friday night instead of the regular Thursday night. So that'll be on the Fight Game or on the Wrestling Observer website. And I think we're going to go on the video channel too. So that might be free. So you can check that out. And I think that's it for this weekend. And then, then we'll be back next week with another Dynamite show. And then I'm going to Vegas for a weekend. So that'll be fun. I'll talk about that next week. So for Jeff Hawkins, I've been Paul Fontaine, and this has been the Dynamite Show.